The real young master who was mistaken by the Shen family was brought back. He went to great lengths to drive me out of the Shen family, slandered me, poisoned him, and framed me for stealing company secrets. My parents were extremely disappointed with me, and my sister hated me to the bone. On the day the truth was revealed, I was already in a high position of power, and my sisters knelt on the ground, crying and begging me to go home. I looked down and said, "Now you know you're begging me to go back. It's too late." Chapter 1. Return in Exchange. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Shen Chuan is dead. It was burned alive by the young master who was recently taken back to the Shen family. His soul was suspended above the Shen family villa. He was in pain and powerless, repeating hysterically word by word, "Not me, not me. Dad. Big sister, third sister. It's not me, I've never done those bad things. I've never hurt you. It's Shen Changqing who framed me to drive me out of the Shen family. Why don't you believe me? Why? I was wrongly accused. Unfortunately. No one responded. He is now just a soul that no one can see. He witnessed with his own eyes that Shen Changqing and his sisters were chatting and laughing happily in the villa, and the whole family lived happily without caring about his tragic death. His injustice. Anger. Hate. There's no way to bring Snow back. His sisters hate him to the bone, and his parents are extremely cold towards him. He hates him so much. Bang. At this moment, the door of the Shen family was suddenly kicked open. A group of imposing black bodyguards rushed in. Under the surprised gaze of her parents, Shen Changqing, and 4 sisters, a stunning woman in a wheelchair was pushed in. Her face was distant and cold, like a flower in the mountains, noble and unattainable. Although she was in a wheelchair, her every move exuded a unique majesty of a superior. Shen Chuan, suspended in the air, felt a hint of familiarity as he looked at the woman's cold and gorgeous face, but strangely, he didn't know her. All members of the Shen family have a question in their hearts: who is she? The elder sister stared at the ferocious black bodyguards and said coldly, "Miss, you don't know exactly what you mean by breaking into my Shen family." Ha! Jiang Ziyi lazily raised his eyes and calmly glanced at the Shen family. The contempt and killing intent in his tone almost turned into substance. Where is his ashes? Shen Changqing sneered, "Shen Chuan. His ashes have been scattered in the sea long ago, he's such a beast." Shua, Jiang Ziyi suddenly lifted his head and glanced at Shen Changqing. The next second, just hear a click. Shen Changqing was directly kicked and broken in the right leg bone by the black bodyguard. He half knelt on the ground, looking painful and wanting to shout out, and the bodyguard immediately stuffed the pre-prepared stinky cloth strip into his mouth. Shen's father was angry, afraid, and angry. Looking into Jiang Ziyi's pupils, a clear hint of fear flashed. What are you doing? What is your relationship with Shen Chuan? What am I going to do? Jiang Ziyi sneered. With a hint of madness and paranoia in her beautiful eyes, she said word by word, "I want to seek justice for Shen Chuan." Next up. Jiang Ziyi turned his wheelchair and walked up to Shen Changqing. The woman grabbed his hair and forcefully lifted his head. Shen Changqing couldn't bear such pain and immediately let out a painful sob. Jiang Ziyi's eyes flickered with a bloodthirsty light. Shen Changqing, you really put in a lot of effort to drive Shen Chuan out of the Shen family. You slandered him for indulging in debauchery outside and mixing with sexually transmitted diseases bar girls, insulting the reputation of the Shen family. But in fact, it was you who drugged Shen Chuan with aphrodisiacs and designed to bring sexually transmitted diseases to his room. The Shen family was about to refute when the bodyguard slammed the pre-prepared photo onto Shen's father's face. The Shen family fixed their eyes on disbelief. You framed Shen Chuan to steal company secrets and sell them to rival companies. However, the real thief of secrets is also you. You deliberately create evidence and frame Shen Chuan to take the blame for you. The bodyguard threw out another set of photos. Upon seeing these photos, the older sister felt her legs soften and suddenly collapsed on the ground, feeling a hint of regret in her heart. Did I blame Xiao Chuan? Thirdly, you point out that Shen Chuan killed his brother, killed his father, and seized his family property. That car accident was clearly directed and acted by you. You were afraid that Shen Chuan's continued stay at home would affect your status, so you tried every means to destroy him. Shen Chuan's death was not an accident at all, it was you. You burned him alive. The bodyguard threw out all the evidence in his hand. For a moment, paper and photos were flying all over the sky, all of which were evidence of Shen Changqing's crime. Shen's father and sister's lips trembled, and it was only then that they realized they had wrongly blamed Shen Chuan. 2 years ago, the Shen family discovered that Shen Chuan and Shen Changqing were being held in the wrong arms, so they brought their biological son Shen Changqing back. Since then, Shen Chuan's temperament has greatly changed so. It turns out that Shen Chuan has changed. But rather, the true young master Shen Changqing believes that Shen Chuan has blocked his own path, taken his own position, and wants to put Shen Chuan to death. The fourth sisters of the Shen family is really ruthless. Boss Shen Fengqin, when starting the company, there was a shortage of funds, but he felt embarrassed to tell his family that it was Shen Chuan who used years of savings to secretly support you and help you get through the difficulties. Second brother Shen Hua. Old fourth Shen Yuemiao, you were afraid to go home while studying anatomy in the laboratory. It was Shen Chuan who picked you up and sent you off at 12 a.m. for 4 consecutive years. You Shen family regained your biological bloodline and treated Shen Chuan like this. You don't want him. Why didn't you give him back to me? Jiang Ziyi's voice was not loud, but it struck everyone's heads like a thunderbolt on the flat ground. The Shen family had a hint of tears in their eyes and couldn't help but recall the bits and pieces of the past in their minds. The second and fourth sisters have started to cover their faces and cry bitterly. Wrong. They are all wrong. They all misunderstood and blamed Ogawa. Jiang Ziyi painfully closed her eyes and placed a dagger around Shen Changqing's neck. She coldly and ruthlessly ordered, kill everyone. Shen family, 1, no, stay. After speaking, the dagger pierced Shen Changqing's neck directly. Ah. No, ah. Waves of heart-wrenching screams echoed through the villa, but soon everything returned to calm. Shen Chuan, suspended in the air, stared straight at Jiang Ziyi. Who the hell is she? Why? Why help him seek revenge? Why treat him so well? The black bodyguard stepped forward and pushed Jiang Ziyi's wheelchair towards the second floor. She arrived at Shen Chuan's room. She took out a photo of Shen Chuan and caressed it carefully, gently, and as if it were a precious treasure. Then she closed her eyes, her cold face adding a touch of tenderness that was not normally present. Ah Chuan. I'm here. I was too late to protect you. The day you left, it must have been very painful, right? It's okay, can I accompany you? The curtains were lit by her own hands. Jiang Ziyi's face was engulfed in flames. She sat quietly in the wheelchair, facing the sea of fire, murmuring with a glistening tear at the corner of her eye. It is said that gods can determine life and death. God, if you are here. I, Jiang Ji, intend to sacrifice my soul and endure the pain of burning myself for generations to come. I only hope to exchange Shen Chuan for a safe and unharmed future, okay? Don't you say anything. Then I'll assume you agree. Shen Chuan watched helplessly as the stunning woman was buried in the flames. A surge of powerlessness and fear surged in his heart, and he desperately grabbed the air with both hands, saying, No. Who are you? Why? Who are you? Miso. Flames surged up in an instant, enveloping Jiang Ziyi with a red light that devoured everything. No. Ah. Shen Chuan roared with all his might, but suddenly bounced up. He gasped for breath and looked at the familiar surroundings, with a cold sweat behind him. Isn't this my room? I didn't die. Just as Shen Chuan was in a daze, the phone placed by the bedside suddenly rang. Ding dong. Shen Chuan picked it up and saw that his pupils shrank. The phone page suddenly went black, with a line of white text flashing. Lucky reborn, you can imagine that I am a god everywhere. As long as I complete the task I posted, I can change the ending of my unjust and tragic death. Chapter 2. Is my divorce. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After 3 seconds, the font disappeared out of thin air and the phone page returned to normal. Gods. Rebirth. It's her. Almost instinctively, he remembered the mysterious woman who had bravely died in the sea of fire, even willing to burn her soul in exchange for his own safety in the afterlife. Jiang Zi. Shen Chuan whispered her name, her heart tingling with pain as if it had been bitten by ants. I will find you. Definitely. Shen's parents and 4 sisters have raised him for more than 20 years, and he has already used this life to repay him in his previous life. In this life, he will never yearn for family again. A cold light flashed in Shen Chuan's eyes, and his phone shook again. Black screen flashing, a line of white text floating on the screen, complete the task assigned by the gods. Publicly reject Chen Mingzhu and withdraw. After the mission is successful, you will receive special rewards. Chen Mingzhu, his childhood sweetheart. 2 years ago, the Shen family discovered that Shen Chuan and Shen Changqing were in the wrong arms, and from then on, the true young master Shen Changqing returned to the Shen family. Shen Chuan, who was embarrassed and anxious about his identity, took the initiative to establish a good relationship with Shen Changqing for the sake of family affection, but he didn't expect Shen Changqing to be very good at disguising himself. On the surface, good brothers, let's show filial piety to our sister and parents together, and secretly frame Shen Chuan to death. In the end, both parents and sisters were extremely disappointed with Shen Chuan, consuming the remaining emotions. Just as Shen Chuan was isolated and helpless, Qingmei Chen Mingzhu stood up and said she believed in herself, extending a helping hand to her and proposing engagement. Who would have thought this was just a scam? In this life, even if there is no task, Shen Chuan will withdraw from this marriage. Xiao Chuan, the pearl has already arrived. Why are you still hiding in your room and not coming out? Just as Shen Chuan was pondering, a knock came from outside the door. The young master Shen Changqing and the elder sister Shen Fengqin stood at the door and knocked twice, but there was still no movement inside the door. Xiao Chuan should have stayed up all night calling the edge anchor last night. No, he didn't get up because he worked too late last night, did he? Sister, should we wait a while to call him again? Shen Changqing pretended to be considerate and said. Shen Changqing seemed to speak for Shen Chuan, but he hesitated and spoke the truth. As the elder sister of the Shen family and a business genius, how could Shen Fengqin not hear Shen Changqing's sudden change of tone? Immediately. Her eyes sank and she asked coldly, the young master of the Shen family is actually going to give a late-night reward to some borderline anchor. He is about to get married. Have you ever taken the engagement to heart? Now Mingzhu is waiting for Shen Chuan downstairs, it's getting more and more outrageous. Shen Fengqin felt a hint of anger in her heart, and her handle was ready to increase its strength by knocking on the door. However, at the moment when my hand was about to touch the door has opened. Shen Chuan, dressed in black, stood under the light with a handsome face that stunned Shen Fengqin, who was originally furious. A hint of jealousy flashed in Shen Changqing's eyes, but the smile on his face did not diminish. Brother, you've finally figured it out. If it's a little later, my parents and they will all be in a hurry. Shen Chuan glanced coldly at Shen Changqing and handed the USB drive to Shen Fengqin, who had an unpleasant expression. Sister, this is for you, he said. Shen Fengqin frowned and glanced at Shen Chuan. What? I heard that your company is currently developing new projects, and I happen to have some knowledge in this area. I made a detailed document for you overnight, which should be helpful for your research and development, Shen Chuan explained casually. But this simple sentence stunned Shen Fengqin's pupils. So did Shen Chuan stay up late last night to watch the sideline anchor spend money recklessly? But rather creating new project materials for oneself. Shen Fengqin inexplicably felt a hint of self-blame, feeling that the USB drive in her hand was heavy and said, "You have a heart." Shen Chuan smiled nonchalantly. In fact, he had already prepared this USB drive. In the previous life, due to Shen Changqing stirring up trouble, Shen Fengqin harbored resentment towards herself, and she was unable to deliver this USB drive to her death. Seeing this scene, Shen Changqing's resentment towards Shen Chuan grew stronger in his heart. At this moment, Shen Chuan also turned his head and looked at Shen Changqing with a smile on his face. He spoke with concern, "Brother Changqing, after all, you are the real young master of the Shen family now. It's better to learn more skills and share the burden with your sisters when you have time. Don't think that staying up late is just watching the sideline anchor." Shen Changqing's angry face turned blue and purple, but unfortunately he fell behind in this matter. He could only grit his teeth and force a smile, saying that he misunderstood. Shen Fengqin looked at Shen Chuan's towering figure, inexplicably feeling a little lost. Since Changqing was brought back, why do the four sisters think Shen Chuan is not sensible and obedient? Replace the ancient paintings put by the Shen family at the auction with fake ones. Intentionally secretly taking photos of the second sister swimming and selling them to reporters. Replace the tonic given by fourth sister to third sister with laxatives. Wait a lot. Mingming, he was the best before. Is it true that, as Mingzhu said, Shen Chuan resorted to any means to drive away the true young master? In the lobby of the first floor, all members of the Shen family and Chen Mingzhu gathered here. Suddenly, Shen Chuan felt a scorching gaze fall on him from behind, and the deep and lingering gaze made him instinctively turn around to look. Behind me was empty and there was nothing unusual. Shen's father frowned and angrily rebuked when he saw Shen Chuan standing there. "What's wrong with you today? The big day of engagement came so late. Look at how long the pearl has been waiting for you." Chen Mingzhu pretended to make a comeback and said, "Uncle, I came too early because I didn't follow the rules. Don't blame Chuan. Look at this virtuous and gentle appearance." Upon seeing this scene, Shen's mother became even more satisfied and quickly said, "Chuan'er's being with Mingzhu is truly a blessing accumulated in her previous life. Why don't you thank Mingzhu quickly? Originally, Mingzhu should have followed her to stay with her parents at the hotel. She came specifically to pick you up." Shen Chuan sneered in his heart. "Who specifically picked me up? Those who specifically came to harm me are quite similar." He remembers clearly that in the previous life, Chen Mingzhu drugged the wine for the wedding banquet. "When I woke up at the hotel, I was already hanging out with a sexually transmitted disease woman arranged by Chen Mingzhu in advance, and was caught by the Shen and Chen families. I am 100 words and can only bear all the stigma." It was also because of this that Shen Chuan always felt guilty towards Chen Mingzhu, constantly making up for her, which ultimately led to his death by the joint efforts of the two. Speaking of Jide, I really want to thank Mingzhu well. Shen Chuan gave Chen Mingzhu a deep glance and added the words, "Thank you." Chen Mingzhu looked at Shen Chuan's sharp gaze and inexplicably dodged. For some reason, she always had the illusion that Shen Chuan had already discovered everything. No way. Shen Chuan is just a licking dog, loving herself so much that she can't extricate herself and won't even suspect her. With this in mind, Chen Mingzhu took a step forward and affectionately hugged Shen Chuan's arm, smiling coquettishly. "Ah, Chuan, it's almost time. Let's go first. There are still some things we need to arrange for the engagement banquet." Shen Changqing agreed first, "Then you guys go first, we'll come later." However, Shen Chuan suddenly interrupted, "Wait a minute. Under the surprised gaze of everyone, Shen Chuan pulled Chen Mingzhu's hand off his body and patted his clothes with a disgusted expression on his face. The smile on Chen Mingzhu's face suddenly stiffened. The Shen family also looked at Shen Chuan with a puzzled expression on their faces. Shen's father frowned and questioned, "What's more important now than your engagement? Let's talk about it when we come back." Shen Chuan raised his head and said word by word, "Of course there is, Chen Mingzhu. Listen carefully. I want to get married." Chapter 3. Wife Comes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 4. Fame and Disgrace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shen Chuan carefully brushed away the broken hair in front of Jiang Ziyi. Her face was as pale as sheep fat, without any hint of blood. In contrast, the blood on her lips was particularly glaring, adding an inexplicable sense of sadness and fragmentation. Shen Chuan suddenly realized that the woman in his arms was so thin and light, like a white mist that could blow away at any time, which was heart-stopping. He felt a slight throbbing pain in his heart and said, "Jiang Ziyi. What's wrong with you? Jiang Ziyi. Did you come to the Shen family to find me?" Hiss. Why did you bleed so much? Shen Chuan didn't know exactly where Jiang Ziyi was injured, so he didn't dare to easily move the other person, afraid of causing secondary harm to her. According to his observation, most of the fresh blood flowed from Jiang Ziyi's legs. He instinctively touched Jiang Ziyi's legs. Shua. At the moment when Jiang Ziyi was about to touch the other person, her half-closed eyes suddenly opened, and a bloody light flashed through her beautiful eyes. She grabbed Shen Chuan's wrist with her left hand and quickly grabbed his neck with her other hand. The whole action was as fast as lightning, not giving Shen Chuan a chance to struggle. Shen Chuan first took a deep breath of cold air in pain, then deliberately relaxed his tense body and softly called out, "Jiang Ziyi." Upon hearing Shen Chuan's voice, Jiang Ziyi felt as if she had been electrocuted, and her hand clenched between Shen Chuan's neck suddenly loosened. She gave Shen Chuan a deep, shocked and complex look. Before Shen Chuan could figure out the depth of her gaze, he heard her call out in a cold and alluring voice, "Chuan, don't want anything." Shen Chuan's heart felt inexplicably tingled, and he instinctively looked at Jiang Ziyi. But Jiang Ziyi fainted again. Shen Chuan quickly grabbed her into his arms with his sharp eyes, but he didn't care too much and lifted the corners of her pants. Hush. Jiang Ziyi's slender legs were covered in scars of various sizes, one of which was deep and seemed to have been cut off by a sharp weapon. Shen Chuan suddenly remembered that when Jiang Ziyi appeared in the previous life, she seemed to be in a wheelchair. Is it because of this injury that she can't walk? At this moment, Shen Chuan suddenly felt a strong wind coming from behind him. He instinctively held Jiang Ziyi in his arms and said, "Who?" The female bodyguard saw Shen Chuan's face and her attacking movements suddenly froze. "Is that you? Do you know me?" Shen Chuan glanced at the unfamiliar woman in front of him and asked with a furrowed brow. The female bodyguard did not reply to Shen Chuan. Just looking at Jiang Ziyi with pitiful and helpless eyes, she sighed and whispered, "Miss, why are you doing this? Carrying a serious injury, you rushed to this small town day and night just to see him get engaged to that woman. You didn't even want your life." The female bodyguard closed her eyes and felt heartbroken. Shen Chuan looked at the female bodyguard's hesitant expression and said, "Let's talk later. Take Ziyi to the hospital first." Upon hearing these words, the female bodyguard suddenly came to her senses. She picked up Jiang Ziyi from Shen Chuan and warned with a cold face, "Did you call Ziyi? You, a man who is already engaged, stay away from Mississippi. Also, don't spread what happened today, otherwise you won't survive the next day without my intervention." Shen Chuan watched helplessly as the female bodyguard gently and cherished Jiang Ziyi's embrace. In the blink of an eye, the the female bodyguard was already standing 10 meters away. Shen Chuan looked at the gradually receding figure and for some reason, just wanted to explain, I broke off, and... Who is she really and why is she treating me so well? Stop. The female bodyguard paused in her footsteps, with a hint of disbelief in her eyes. Isn't Shen Chuan in love with Chen Mingzhu? How could she suddenly withdraw from marriage? But soon, she sneered. What about getting divorced? With Shen Chuan's personality, Chen Mingzhu hooked her fingers and the two would reconcile again. He couldn't have cut off contact with Chen Mingzhu, let alone know the shocking identity of Mississippi. He doesn't deserve it. Shen Chuan wanted to tell the female bodyguard that he had already left the Shen family, but as soon as he opened his mouth, he found that the figure in front of him had disappeared. Forget it. No matter who you are, I will find you. Shen Chuan simply treated the blood stains on the ground and then went to a nearby hotel to open a suite to rest. Ding dong. Shen Chuan's mind moved and he immediately took out his phone. The phone suddenly turned black, and a line of white text flashed immediately after it. The task has been completed. Do you want to receive the reward from the gods now? On screen. The yes and no buttons are illuminated with strong light. Shen Chuan pressed yes without hesitation. The screen returned to its original state, and the next second, a rapid knocking sound began. Is this just a reward? Shen Chuan quickly opened the door. There was no one outside the door, only a delicate box placed there. The black screen of the phone once again lit up with white text. Congratulations to the lucky rebirth, the reward bestowed upon you by the gods has arrived. Hacker Technology * Beginner. Shen Chuan opened the box and found a small black pill lying inside, with no visible ingredients. Would eating it give you hacking skills? It knows even the big secret of my rebirth, and I believe there are gods in this world. How can we prevent it? What could have a worse ending than the previous one? Bet. Shen Chuan swallowed it without hesitation. In almost an instant, there was a lot of knowledge in his mind that did not belong to him. When he opened his eyes again, Shen Chuan had completely mastered this technique. Shen Chuan's eyes flashed with a hint of shock and joy, and he couldn't wait to look at his phone again. However, by this time, the screen had returned to normal. It seems that there are still some opportunities before the next task is released. Ding-ling-ling. The hurried bell directly interrupted Shen Chuan's thoughts. It's from third sister Shen Xuetang. Shen Chuan frowned and answered the phone. Before he could speak, Shen Xuetang's slightly icy voice came from the other end of the phone. Xiao Chuan, come back. Shen Chuan instinctively refused. After all, he had already severed ties with the Shen family, and when Shen Xuetang called him, it was nothing more than a cliché apology to Chen Mingzhu and his parents. Wait. He seemed to vaguely hear Shen Changqing's determined voice before hanging up the phone. Lost, last time I seemed to see Shen Chuan. Can't I, was it my younger brother who did it again? Haha. Shen Chuan's mouth curved upwards with sarcasm. It seems that Shen Changqing hasn't given up yet. He has already left the Shen family and is still trying his best to destroy himself. Okay. Since that's the case, he won't hesitate. Shen Chuan lowered his head slightly, took out his phone, and quickly pressed his fingers on the screen. 3 minutes later. Shen Chuan looked up, his eyes as cold as an abyss. He seemed to be promising himself, who had died tragically before, Shen Changqing. In this life, I will let you taste the consequences of being burned alive and ruined. Chapter 5. Removing the gift money. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhang's family, in a private villa. Jiang Zi had already changed into a white long dress and lay quietly on the big bed. The sunlight flowed on her porcelain white skin, and even her purple and blue blood vessels could be vaguely seen. Precise instruments are making a dripping sound inside the room. Her severely injured legs were also hung high. Ah-Chuan. Don't get engaged. Don't leave me. Jiang Zi unconsciously clenched the tight-fitting sheet and murmured in pain. Next second. The tightly closed eyes suddenly opened. Jiang Zi frowned as she looked around at the familiar scene, returning to her usual calm demeanor. Miss, are you awake? The female bodyguard heard the commotion inside the house and hurriedly ran over, crying with joy, saying, I'll go call a doctor and have her examine you again. No need. Jiang Zi interrupted the female bodyguard's movements directly. She lowered her eyes, her expression dark and indistinct. Just emerged from the critical moment of life and death, the first sentence she asked. Surprisingly, it's Shen Chuan again. Jiang Zi said, today should be his engagement banquet with Chen Mingzhu. Why was he by my side when I fainted? After a slight pause. Jiang Zi's voice was filled with a hint of abnormal anticipation. Did something unexpected happen to him and Chen Mingzhu's engagement banquet? The voice was as cold as usual, but only Jiang Zi knew how turbulent her mood was at this moment. The female bodyguard was stunned for a few seconds, and with red eyes, she advised, Miss, based on your family background, identity, and status. Even the crown prince of the top aristocratic family in Kyoto should bow down and respect you, Miss Jiang. Why do you insist on hanging yourself from this crooked-necked tree like Shen Chuan? That's it. The female bodyguard's eyes turned slightly red as she looked at Jiang Zi's hanging leg and said in a choked tone, It's because you received the news of Shen Chuan's engagement on the spot. You dragged on a serious injury and insisted on taking a personal look. Do you know that just because you saw Shen Chuan, you delayed treatment? The right Achilles tendon is broken, and the triceps of the calf cannot lift the root bone nodule. In other words, you can only use a wheelchair in the future. He's just a fake young master of the Shen family. His adopted son. It's worth it for you. Without finishing speaking, Jiang Zi suddenly glanced at her. Her narrow and beautiful eyes are full of coldness and murderous intent. The female bodyguard's back became cold, and she quickly lowered her head and said, I'm sorry, miss, I violated the rules. Jiang Zi paid no attention to her injury and simply asked expressionlessly, what exactly happened to the Shen family when I was unconscious? Female bodyguard. Shen Chuan and Chen Mingzhu are not engaged. The Shen family has announced to the public that there are uncontrollable factors that prevent the engagement banquet from being held as scheduled, and it has been temporarily cancelled. It is said that the Chen family had a big temper with the Shen family privately over this matter. Ah-Chuan has cancelled his engagement that. Can you turn around and take a look at her? She has been waiting for him for a long time. Jiang Zi rarely appears happy. Most of the time, she is detached and self-sufficient, standing in front of you like ice and jade, giving people a sense of authority. But now this smile makes even female bodyguards, who are also women, unable to resist the pounding heart. Continuing, I heard Jiang Zi drop a sentence word by word. Go, let Uncle Wan, as an elder, help me write a marriage alliance letter for the Shen family. I want to marry Shen Chuan. The sound was not loud, but it was loud enough to shake the ground, like a thunderbolt on a flat ground that directly woke up the female bodyguard. The female bodyguard was confused and said, Mississippi. Jiang Zi's eyes narrowed as she spoke with an unquestionable tone, you just need to follow my instructions. Okay, I'll go notify the Shen family now. Jiang Zi leaned against the bedside with satisfaction, her lips curling up. Ah-Chuan. This time, I won't let go of your hand again. Shen family. Shen Chuan was still unaware of Jiang Zi's arrangements, so he returned to the Shen family as promised. As soon as I entered the hallway, I heard Shen Changqing's eerie voice coming from the living room. Shen Changqing. Third sister, I can't be sure either. I just saw your research results with Chen Mingzhu. What if this is a misunderstanding? Look, This is the face cream I took from Chen Mingzhu. The name of your laboratory is also printed on the face cream box. You'd better ask Xiao Chuan first, third sister. Shen Shuatang did not speak, but opened the face cream and sniffed it carefully. It's really her face cream. The face cream took her more than 3 months of hard work. In order to quietly develop a new face cream, she stayed in the laboratory all the time except sleeping, and even moved the laboratory from school to home. If the research and development is successful, not only can she rise to fame within the college, but also international high enterprises will become famous. This face cream was developed only yesterday. I originally planned to test it carefully after Shen Chuan's wedding banquet today. I didn't want to leave the lab for a while, but I lost both the test face cream and the experimental data. Shen Changqing noticed Shen Shuatang's face and added to it, maybe, I guess, my brother stole the face cream to please Chen Mingzhu. The reason why he suddenly proposed to withdraw is to ask Chen Mingzhu not to contact us temporarily to prevent exposure. Perhaps when the limelight passes, he will be engaged to Chen Mingzhu again. But I found the lab mark on the face cream. Alas, third sister, I just said it casually, which may be a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. Look at how kind Changqing is. The evidence is on the surface, and he speaks for Shen Chuan. What about Shen Chuan? Shen's father's face darkened to the extreme, and he couldn't help but sigh again, this scoundrel. I asked why he suddenly stiffened up and wanted to leave the Shen family. It turned out he had done something wrong and felt guilty. Although Shen's mother didn't speak, there was a hint of disappointment between her eyebrows. Third sister Shen Shuatang was originally a bit uncertain, but couldn't resist Shen Changqing's instigation and agitation. She closed her eyes coldly and said, if it really was Xiao Chuan who stole it, If he still doesn't repent or admit his mistake, let's sue him. If we keep going like this, our character will be ruined. It's better than causing big trouble outside in the future. Shen Fengqin frowned when she heard these words. Shen Changqing snatched up a voice and said, third sister, Xiao Chuan has indeed done a lot of wrong things before, but he is still young. No matter how many times the Shen family can help him, nothing big can happen. The lawsuit is too serious. You'd better hear how he apologizes and apologizes, in case he doesn't admit it. That's it. Suddenly, a lazy and indifferent voice rang out from outside the door. Shen Changqing, you really use this method of stirring up trouble and sowing discord to the fullest. I admire you, little brother. Chapter 6. Proof of Innocence. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As soon as these words were spoken, the Shen family instinctively looked towards the source of the sound. Only see, Shen Chuan walked in like a leisurely stroll, with the usual casual expression on his face, but with a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. He ignored everyone's gaze and lazily sat on the sofa. Shen Changqing was so insulted, his face turning blue. If it weren't for his concern for maintaining his image, he would have rushed over and slapped Shen Chuan long ago. He forcefully swallowed this tone and pretended to be aggrieved, saying, Xiao Chuan, I know you hate me for exposing you. But I'm doing it for your own good. I won't change my small mistakes. When I make a big mistake, it's too late. I can't watch you drag down the entire Shen family. If this is my thing, I won't blame you for anything I say, but it's the hard work of third sister who has been studying tirelessly for 3 months. Take a look. Look at this grandiose appearance. Shen Chuan's mouth curved upwards, revealing a contemptuous smile. Pretending to be weak and hypocritical is Shen Changqing's consistent move. But unfortunately, Shen's father loved to eat this kind of thing and directly pointed at Shen Chuan, cursing angrily, rebel son. How can you talk to your brother? You stole your third sister's research results to please Mingzhu. If it weren't for Changqing's timely discovery today, we would all have been deceived by you. The more Shen Fu spoke, the more he felt heartbroken and said, you made a mistake before, and I couldn't bear to blame you. I didn't expect you to develop this arrogant personality. Today you must apologize to your third sister and Chongqing one by one. And I promise not to make such mistakes again in the future, otherwise, I won't let you suffer a bit now, and you will make big mistakes in society in the future. Shen Chongqing's eyes flashed a glimmer of success. According to my father, are we going to sue Shen Chuan for theft? I am very clear about Shen Chuan. Shen Chuan may seem calm and gentle, but in fact, he is inherently more proud than anyone else. Making him apologize to himself is like slapping him in public. Shen Chuan had already guessed that Shen's father wouldn't believe him. Sure enough, was this a blood relationship? I didn't do it, why should I apologize? Who else can it be if it's not you? Even Chongqing has already turned his face. Shen Chuan looked coldly at Shen Chongqing and asked, do you have any evidence that you claim I stole it? Just seeing some unfounded events, your mind has fantasized about a big drama. Those who know think you have no intention, while those who don't think you want to frame me. Shen Chongqing was mocked one after another today, and even if he tried to disguise himself again, his face couldn't hold back. Before he could speak, Shen Chuan interrupted again, since both Shen's father, mother, and sister don't believe me. That's good. Why don't we take a gamble today? If you can prove that I stole the face cream, I will lose. Not only will I publicly sever ties with the Shen family, but I will also take full legal responsibility and not demand a single penny from the Shen family. But Shen Chuan's words paused, his eyes cold to the extreme, and his words were also oppressive. If you can't provide evidence. The hearts of the Shen family all rose with his words. I want you to apologize to me. Turn yourself in and admit to all the charges that have slandered me. Shen Chongqing shivered inexplicably. Before Shen Chongqing could speak, Shen Fengqin stopped in a shocked tone and said, Xiao Chuan. Are you crazy? Well, how can you bet on this? Shen Chuan's expression remained calm as he looked at Shen Chongqing with a burning gaze. How about that? Do you dare to bet? Originally, Shen Chongqing's heart was filled with a hint of fear toward Shen Chuan, but upon hearing this, the fear immediately turned into endless ridicule and disdain. He has exact evidence to prove that face cream was stolen by Shen Chuan. It seems that Shen Chuan still has that uncontrollable aura. What a fool. On the surface, Shen Chongqing pretended to reluctantly agree, Xiao Chuan, I don't really want to bet with you. I must let you know that you made a mistake. Only when you touch the south wall will you turn back, and I am also doing it for your own good. Shen Chongqing took out a USB drive. He inserted it into the pre-prepared notebook and after a few simple taps, a figure appeared on the screen. He gave Shen Chuan a meaningful glance and pushed his notebook to third sister, saying, because I have sleepwalking, I installed a surveillance camera at the door of my room to monitor my movements. But coincidentally, third sister moved the laboratory across from me, so she accidentally captured this scene. Speaking, Shen Chongqing tapped the space. The monitoring is starting to play. I saw a figure sneaking out of Shen Shuatang's room in the picture, looking flustered and as if he had done something wrong. And the surveillance camera happened to capture the face of the figure, which was impressive, Shen Chuan. Upon seeing this scene, Sister Shen Fengqin's heart, which had previously hesitated, suddenly cooled down again. She unconsciously tightened her palm and a hint of mockery appeared on her face. Funny. She actually believed Shen Chuan just now. Rivers and mountains are easy to change, and nature is hard to change. How could Shen Chuan, a habitual criminal, possibly change? Despite all this, Shen Fengqin still felt a bit disappointed and heartbroken in her heart. Shen's father slammed the table fiercely and cursed angrily, rebel son. There is a mountain of hard evidence, what else can you argue now? Third sister Shen Shuatang's face was gloomy. She looked at Shen Chuan with heartache and said, so far, what else do you have to say? Shen Chuan remained calm and composed, with a casual smile on his face. He watched the surveillance again and said, is this the video backed up to a USB drive? You enter the monitoring system and retrieve the monitoring again. Shen Changqing felt inexplicably uneasy when he saw Shen Chuan's indifferent expression. In theory, Shen Chuan should be nervous, even at a loss, when he presents evidence. But he always looked calm, as if he had anticipated it long ago. Shen Changqing was about to refuse, but unexpectedly, Shen Chuan was the first to say, "Since you want to sentence me to death, you should let me die with conviction, right?" Shen's father was filled with disappointment and powerlessness, and ordered Shen Changqing, "Changqing, please bring out the surveillance system and let him completely give up." Shen Changqing nervously called out the monitoring system. But this time, the screen clearly shows inconsistency. After Shen Chuan left, another woman also entered Shen Shuatang's laboratory. Cluck. Shen Changqing's heart twitched when he saw this scene. Didn't he delete this video? How did it recover again? Shen Chuan caught a glimpse of the shocked expressions on the faces of the Shen family members, then slammed the space bar to pause and enlarged the woman's face. Now, everyone could see her face clearly. It's Chen Mingzhu. Shen Chuan then enlarged her hand. She held a box of face cream in her hand. Face cream was exactly the same as what Shen Shuatang had lost. Hush. The Shen family took a cold breath and looked incredulous. Before third sister could figure it out, Shen Chuan adjusted the video to the scene where he entered the laboratory. He deliberately enlarged the screen and pretended to be aggrieved, sighing. "Big sister, third sister, in your hearts, am I really just so unbearable?" Shen Chuan looked at his sister with sad eyes and a self-deprecating expression. "Look carefully, I'm holding Mingmu tea in my hand. I noticed that third sister has been working too hard lately and often rubs her eyes. I don't want to disturb her, so I carefully sent it in. How could someone take it out of context and become a thief?" Chapter 7. Wedding Stickers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Words fall. Shen Chuan looked at Shen Changqing in a complex manner and said, "Shen Changqing, you intentionally took a clip, which not only falsely accused me, but also misled my parents and sisters. Are you so afraid that I will argue with you about the Shen family's property?" As soon as this sentence is spoken, the Shen family all looked at Shen Changqing with complex expressions. Shen Changqing was sweating profusely and didn't know how to explain for a moment. Indeed, he deliberately falsely accused Shen Chuan. More than that, Chen Mingzhu was also instructed by him to steal face cream. Why did he appear out of thin air when he had already deleted the segment of Chen Mingzhu entering the research room? Damn it! Seeing Shen Changqing stuttering and unable to speak, Shen Chuan felt much more comfortable in his heart. Immediately, Shen Chuan complained wrongfully, "Brother, I'm just a fake young master of the Shen family. If you don't say it well, I'm just an adopted son. Yes. I have a family relationship with the Shen family for over 20 years, and it's normal for you to worry that I might snatch your property. But I've already made it clear to you before that I won't snatch anything that belongs to you. I only need a little bit of affection from my parents and sisters, isn't it okay? Why are you framing me like this?" Shen Fengqin didn't speak, just glanced at Shen Chuan. There is both joy and an indescribable wavering speculation in this eye. Before Shen Chuan could react, Shen Fengqin had already retracted her gaze from his father and said in a deep voice, "Dad, this thing wasn't taken by Xiao Chuan. Changqing, is it true that Xiao Chuan said you intentionally targeted and framed him?" Shen Fengqin looked at Shen Changqing with sharp eyes. Father Shen interrupted wearily, "All right. What are you forcing Changqing to do? How long has he been back to the Shen family? He doesn't know anything about computers or surveillance, but he misunderstood Shen Chuan because he didn't see them in the latter half. Let's leave face cream alone. We are ashamed of the Chen family, and Changqing did not mean it. No one is allowed to mention this matter again in the future." Shen Changqing seemed to have never expected that Shen's father would believe in him so much. His originally anxious heart sank and he immediately took the opportunity to say, "Dad, this is my fault. I have had no money or love since I was young, and I have never touched a computer. I blamed Shen Chuan before watching the video. I will definitely pay attention next time." Shen's father felt guilty and heartbroken when he heard the words, "No money, no love. Goodbye." Shen Changqing has such a good attitude and is so sensible. Shen's father is determined to make up for this son well, and immediately nodded with satisfaction. "If you know your mistake, change it, good child." Third child, the face cream should not move much. It should be enough for you to test. If there is anything else you need help with, Dad will help you out. Third sister Shen Shuatang glanced at Shen Changqing with a faint and deep gaze. "What are you doing to mention how miserable you used to be? And such a big matter, if it's left to Shen Chuan, how can it be left to Shen Changqing?" Before, San Jie had not paid attention to these details. Now, upon careful consideration, is this too cold for Xiao Chuan's heart? Shen Fengqin also frowned somewhat dissatisfied, wanting to say something. "But I haven't waited for Shen Fengqin to speak yet." Shen Chuan sneered and mercilessly lowered a sentence, "Shen Changqing, I don't mind reminding you that you lost the bet just now. Now you not only have to apologize, but also turn yourself in and admit to all the things that have slandered me before." Shen's father looked at this son who had been raising him for more than 20 years with a surprised expression on his face. He hates Shen Chuan with iron and steel, but after all, he has had feelings for so many years. How could he not hope for Shen Chuan to be good? But Shen Changqing has a blood relationship with himself, and he also feels sorry. When he first brought Changqing back to the Shen family, Shen's father hoped that the two brothers could coexist peacefully and help each other. Why did it become like this? What are you saying? It's just a misunderstanding. Are you going to be so aggressive? What is Changqing's personality? Dad knows very well, how could he possibly slander you? You have been hurting him for the past 2 years, thinking that he has taken away your favor and wants to drive him out of the Shen family. Ogawa, how did you become like this? Aggressive. How did it turn out like this? Father, to what extent do you still have to be biased? It's okay, it's okay. When making this bet, Shen Chuan knew very well that Shen Changqing would at most apologize to him, and the final outcome would definitely be safe and sound. Because, the Shen family will definitely protect Shen Changqing. It's just that. Shen Chuan closed his eyes and completely abandoned this family relationship. When he opened his eyes again, his pupils were no longer emotional and he said, "So what? Let's just settle this matter, right?" Accumulated 2 lifetimes of resentment and disappointment, suddenly erupted at this moment. For a moment Shen's father actually thinks. Do you think you might really want to lose Shen Chuan as your son? No. He just wants the 2 brothers to be tolerant and supportive of each other. What's wrong with him as a father trying to have the best of both worlds? Shen's father took a fierce step forward to protect Shen Changqing behind him, and the disappointment and pain in his eyes surged out. He trembled and said, "Otherwise, what else do you want? Xiao Chuan, it's not that Dad suspects you, let alone that the sisters misunderstood you, but rather that you've done too many wrong things before. You have caused us to lose trust in you step by step. We have forgiven you so many times, thinking that you will become better next time. Just because Ogawa misunderstood you this time, is it not enough?" As Shen Fu spoke, his eyes turned red. "Dad, stop talking, it's my fault, Xiao Chuan is sorry." Shen Changqing quickly walked forward and apologized to Shen Chuan hesitantly. "I'm sorry, Xiao Chuan. I didn't know you misunderstood me so much in your heart." Shen Changqing had a hint of crying and pretended to be apologetic, saying to Shen's father, "Dad, it's all my fault. Don't argue with my younger brother because of me." Shen's father saw Shen Changqing like this and became even more determined to protect him, staring at Shen Chuan with a stubborn gaze. Shen Fengqin moved her lips and said absurd things like not letting her younger brother surrender. Look. Biological is biological. Oh myself, you should never expect family affection again. Shen Chuan's face showed a hint of mockery, and he gave the Shen family a deep glance before taking a big step and saying, anyway, that's all for the more than 20 years of nurturing. Xiao Chuan. Shen Fengqin couldn't help but shout, but to no avail. What are you calling him for? Didn't he shout yesterday to sever ties with the Shen family? Let him go. Let this rebellious son go. Shen's father scolded with red eyes. Shen Chongqing stood behind his father, revealing a proud sneer without showing any trace. Although the sinking of Shen Chuan was not successful, the relationship between Shen Chuan and the Shen family has deteriorated. Shen Chuan. Don't blame me. If you want to blame it, blame yourself. It was you who stole my family background and affection, and now, I'm just trying to snatch it back. Master, great news. Wang Shoufu has arrived, and he has arrived at the villa entrance with a bunch of bodyguards and gifts. Chapter 8. Leaving the Shen family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Not long after Shen Chuan left, the butler rushed in a hurry. The sudden news left Shen's father confused for a moment, and he instinctively asked, Wang Shoufu. Which king is the richest? Of course it's the head of the Wang family, Wang Jiwei. The butler spoke of his name with a strong aura of admiration in his eyes. Wang family. One of the 3 major families in Qingzhou City, and also the leader with a wealth of thousands. I don't know who first called Wang Jiwei the richest man, but when it became popular, everyone called him that. The name of the richest man is well deserved. Although the Shen family may have some prestige in Qingzhou City, they are ultimately only second-rate or third-rate families, and have no comparability with such top-tier families. Wang Jiwei, who used to make an appointment to meet once, suddenly visited the Shen family. This left Shen's father at a loss for a moment, and he didn't care to get angry. He quickly said, hurry up, let's go out together to welcome Wang Shoufu. And then, before I could walk out the door, I heard a hearty laugh coming from outside. Master Shen, you don't need to be so polite. I came uninvited today. I hope you can forgive me. Following the sound of laughter, a middle-aged man in Tang attire walked in. He looked very young and smiled kindly. And behind him, there were dozens of black bodyguards carrying large red boxes. The boxes were heavy and they didn't know what was inside. Shen's father was a bit reserved and uneasy, saying, Wang Shoufu, you're so polite. I don't know why you're here today. Wang Jiwei came straight to the point and said, I came today to issue a marriage invitation to the young master on behalf of someone else. As soon as the words fell, Wang Jiwei lightly patted his hand. Screaming. More than 10 red boxes opened in an instant. The entire hall is shining with golden light, and various luxury decorations are placed inside the boxes. I only heard the bodyguard shout loudly, 2 plates of coral facing the pearl. A pair of twin luan carrying longevity fruit golden hairpins. 2 pieces of glass-type jade trigger. The overwhelming wealth and status stunned the Shen family, who stared at the red box in front of them with shocked expressions. Looking around, there are hundreds of gold-made handicrafts, as well as many expensive jade, agate, and ancient paintings. With such a stroke of hand, I have already bought half of the Shen family. Wang Jiwei has made such a big move, is it to propose his daughter? Speaking of Wang Jiwei's daughter, everyone in the city knows her well. Although she is the daughter of the richest man, she is very low-key in her actions, and coupled with Wang Jiwei's intention to protect her, so few people have seen her. He had 3 sons and only got a daughter in the end. Wang Jiwei's treatment of this daughter can be said to be holding it in his palm for fear of falling, and holding it in his mouth for fear of melting. If he really proposed marriage for this daughter, then the Shen family would really climb the high branch and have a complete foothold in Qingzhou City in the future. When did Changqing deal with the Wang family? Without waiting for Shen's father to ask, Wang Jiwei smiled and said, I came this time as an elder to congratulate Miss Jiang on behalf of the young master. Due to hasty preparation and insufficient preparation, I apologize. I will make up for it when the two truly get married. Continuing. Wang Jiwei turned his gaze to Shen Changqing and tentatively asked, this should be Shen Xiao, right? At first, Shen Changqing didn't react. When he heard Wang Jiwei's question, he quickly withdrew his gaze from the dowry and showed a slightly flattering smile. Wang Jiwei is good at observing words and expressions. Sometimes, with just a slight expression, he can understand what the other person is thinking. He appeared calm on the surface, but a hint of disappointment flashed in his heart. Is this the person Miss Jiang is interested in? Shen Changqing slowly realized Wang Jiwei's words and quickly asked, didn't you send me a wedding invitation for your daughter? Who is Miss Jiang? Looking at Shen Changqing's puzzled gaze, Wang Jiwei also felt a bit confused. Don't you know Mississippi? What's going on? Did you mistake someone else? But Guard Jiang clearly ordered himself to bring the dowry to the Shen family's wedding invitation, saying too much can easily cause trouble, and the other party naturally knows who Miss Jiang is. Upon hearing these words, Wang Jiwei quickly asked Shen's father, are you just this one son? Shen Fengqin instinctively wanted to speak, but was stopped by Shen's father's gaze. Shen's father is still feeling angry in his heart. He used to dote on Shen Chuan too much, so he should have been cruel enough to make him suffer more. That's right, this is my only son. Since Shen Chuan is ruthless in not wanting this family, there is no need for him to mention the other party again. Moreover, with Shen Chuan's abilities, he would never know someone as powerful as Wang Jiwei. Wang Jiwei frowned and pondered. Jiang Huwei was already extremely disgusted with Shen Chuan, and even didn't bother to personally notify Wang Jiwei. He just made a phone call in less than 30 seconds, asking him to come to the Shen family to invite the young master of the Shen family for a wedding invitation. If Shen Chuan agrees to her, everyone will be happy. But if Shen Chuan refuses, from the perspective of Jiang Guard, this is a good thing for the young lady. So, she handed over the initiative to Shen Chuan. Is it because this kid already knew that Miss Jiang's leg was injured and he might not be able to stand up in the future, so he pretended to be foolish and refused himself? What a clever plan. Wang Jiwei's smile suddenly faded, exuding a unique aura of authority from his superiors. With a hint of threat, he said to Shen Changqing, kid, you have considered it carefully. I owe Miss Jiang some favor, so I specifically helped her make a trip. Miss Jiang may have legs disabled, but with her advanced medical skills, she may still be able to stand up. By then, even if you want to pursue her, you won't have a chance. What? Still disabled? Upon hearing this, Shen Changqing's original eagerness in his eyes immediately faded. He is afraid of poverty and hardship, deluding himself to achieve success. It is absolutely impossible for him to spend his whole life with a disabled woman. Besides, there is no Jiang surname among the three major families in Qingzhou, so it must be just an unknown small aristocratic family. The reason why Wang Jiwei came for her is probably purely because he owes her kindness. Perhaps these dowries were prepared by the Wang family. How can kindness compare to real gold and silver these days? Wang Shoufu has repaid this favor and is afraid to have no contact with Miss Jiang next time. Without waiting for Shen's father to speak, Shen Changqing immediately smiled and politely declined, Wang Shoufu, I know you are kind, but I have no contact with Miss Jiang. I don't even know what she looks like, let alone why she really likes me. If I truly love someone, I don't care about their family, background, or appearance. Even if she is a vegetable, I will keep her for a lifetime, not to mention being disabled. But love cannot be forced. I would like to thank Miss Jiang for her love, but unfortunately, I cannot agree to her. This statement is very grandiose. If it weren't for Wang Jiwei's keen perception of Shen Changqing's changing gaze, he would probably have truly believed him. Okay. Okay. Wang Jiwei gave Shen Changqing a deep glance and then instructed the bodyguard beside him, since the Shen family refuses, let's withdraw. Upon hearing these words, Shen Changqing kept his gaze fixed on the red boxes. He suddenly pretended to be sincere and said to Wang Jiwei, Wang Shoufu, although I have no chance with Miss Jiang, could you please give me her phone number or address to thank her for her affection? Anyway, I would like to express my gratitude in person. With the pen of the Wang family, most of these dowries will be given to Miss Jiang. Although she doesn't deserve to be her own wife, a cold light flashed through Wang Jiwei's eyes, and he immediately chuckled lightly. Without lifting his eyelids, he calmly dropped a disdainful sentence. Master Shen, you never know what you missed. In this life, you don't deserve to get close to her anymore. Chapter 9. Marriage to her. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Stop talking. Wang Jiwei didn't even glance at Shen Changqing and strode away. Shen Changqing stiffened with a smile. An inexplicable sense of emptiness surged from the bottom of my heart, as if I had truly lost a terrifying opportunity. Shen's father didn't know what was going on, but he instinctively thought it was Wang Jiwei's narrow-minded attitude towards others. That's too much. It's so disrespectful to find a disabled young lady to propose marriage to us Shen family. Changqing, don't worry, Dad will find you a better one. Shen Changqing forced out a smile and thanked Shen father. Shen's father looked at his forced expression and felt even more heartbroken. Changqing, you're just too sensible. I originally wanted you to stay at home for a few more days. It seems like it's time to exercise and train you. Tomorrow, you come with me to the company. Coincidentally, the company is having a bidding activity recently. You can learn from me closely, and in the future, this Shen family will inevitably have to rely on you. Upon hearing these words, Shen Changqing's originally gloomy expression suddenly lit up. The corners of his mouth rose uncontrollably and he quickly thanked him, thank you, Dad. The four sisters of the Shen family, who have been silent all the time, have complex faces. They understand what Shen Fu's words mean. It means that the father has confirmed Shen Changqing as the heir of the Shen family. Their four sisters are not covetous of the company's positions. They have their own positions. Even if they leave the Shen family, they can still rise. However, Shen Chuan the four sisters looked at each other, but they were silent. Only Shen Fengqin clenched her palm, her expression gloomy, and her willow eyebrows wrinkled into a small hill. Originally, this position should have belonged to Xiaochuan, but now it has been replaced by Shen Changqing. Is this really right? Is Xiaochuan really that unbearable? It's already dark by the time Shen Changqing finishes talking to his father. He was about to return to his room when his phone in his pocket suddenly buzzed. Shen Changqing glanced at the screen and his expression suddenly became cautious. He first checked if there were anyone else in the corridor before returning to his room and locking the door. Why is it so slow? It takes so long to answer a phone call. Shen Changqing felt a bit impatient in his heart, and his tone was also a bit cold. Something happened just now. Didn't I say that? It's a special period lately, so unless there's something special, don't call me anymore. Chen Mingzhu immediately became unhappy and said, didn't you say that as long as you topple Shen Chuan, you will reveal our relationship to my parents? Now that Shen Chuan has been kicked out of the Shen family, you haven't even called me. Shen Changqing, I advise you to give me a satisfactory answer. A chill flashed in Shen Changqing's black eyes. Although his face remained expressionless, his voice was unusually gentle and patiently comforted. Pearl, please forgive me. I was too busy, and just now my dad agreed to let me enter the company. Although Shen Chuan has been expelled from the Shen family now, it is not yet complete. Shen Changqing's eyes flashed with a hint of melancholy, and his voice was so cold that it made people shudder. To cut the grass, the roots must be eradicated. I not only want Shen Chuan to be kicked out, but I also want him to be ruined and never be able to turn over. So, I can only work hard for you for a while. I believe you can do it, right? Shen Changqing quickly regained his gentle attitude and asked softly. Chen Mingzhu hesitated several times before finally agreeing, "Don't worry, Shen Chuan is just a licking dog. He won't run out of my palm. Before tomorrow, he will definitely come to me and beg for my forgiveness. I will inform you then and we will proceed according to the plan." At this point, Chen Mingzhu urged again, "After Shen Chuan is completely solved, you can't procrastinate anymore. You must propose to my parents." Shen Changqing gave a meaningful smile, his white teeth shining brightly in the darkness. "Don't worry, I won't break my promise," he said. Two people hang up the phone. Shen Changqing's eyes flashed with a hint of malice. "Shen Chuan. You just wait for your reputation to fall apart. This Shen family can only be mine." The next day, early in the morning. Wake up in the leisurely hotel of Shen Chuan. After having breakfast, he took the computer and opened the web page. Shen Chuan looked at the hot search on the web page and instinctively wanted to click in. But then, suddenly realizing something, he sneered and didn't click in, but instead typed 3 words on the screen, Jiang Zi. After waiting for a moment, there was no information available in the search engine. Not only without photos, but also without a single word. It seems like there is no such person as Jiang Zi in the world. Clean and excessive. It seems that the other party has more advanced hacking skills than him, hiding all of Jiang Zi's information. From various aspects, Jiang Zi is by no means an ordinary person. But why did she save me in the previous life? If he had met Jiang Zi, he would never have had the slightest impression. It was not that he had a good memory, but that the impression left by the other party was too deep. Almost as long as you take a glance, you won't forget. A flash of inspiration flashed in Shen Chuan's mind, and he immediately used hacking technology to search again in the real estate system of this city, only to find unexpected gains. This address is a well-known villa area in this city, not only quiet but also valuable. It seems that it should be Jiang Zi's residence. Shen Chuan hesitated slightly. Should he go or not? When Shen Chuan thought of her pale face and bleeding legs, his heart couldn't help but ache. At this moment, Shen Chuan's phone suddenly rang. The screen automatically went black, followed by a line of white text appearing, "Complete the task assigned by the gods. Marry Jiang Zi. After a successful mission, reward beginner-level medical skills." Not, "Get married." Shen Chuan gasped in shock. But the task is also too difficult. Although Jiang Zi saved herself in the previous life, what is Jiang Zi's attitude towards herself in this life, or rather, at this moment? Shen Chuan has a headache. Jiang Zi's injured leg has always been a concern for Shen Chuan. But now that he is poor and penniless, why propose to Jiang Zi? You can't rely on your own thick skin, can you? Shen Chuan pondered and eventually compromised. Anyway, let's go take a look at this position first. And at this moment, Jiang family. Jiang Ji looked at the female prostitute with a frosty expression and asked word by word, "Can you say it again? What's going on?" "Miss, Wang Shoufu has received news that the Shen family has refused the wedding invitation," the female escort reported with a firm face click. I only heard a crisp sound. The cup in Jiang Zi's hand was forcefully crushed. "Mississippi!" the female security guard exclaimed in surprise. She took a step forward and quickly opened Jiang Zi's tightly clenched fist. Many glass fragments were embedded in the white and tender palms, and blood flowed out uncontrollably. However, Jiang Zi's expression was hollow, as if she couldn't feel any pain at all. Jiang Zi looked up coldly and pinched the shoulder of the female escort. "Why did he refuse me?" The female security guard took a painful breath. Looking up, he bumped into Jiang Ziyi's slightly crimson eyes, which had always been calm and peaceful, and now burst into a chilling cold light. Or is it that he can't let go of Chen Mingzhu? Jiang Ziyi's voice was hoarse, like a pathological devil who could be violent and kill at any time. He's mine. Shen Chuan can only be mine. Waiting for the female escort to react. Jiang Ziyi suddenly stood up, pretending to pull the leg suspension. The female prostitute's face turned pale with fear when she saw this scene. She quickly stopped and said, "Miss, your leg has not recovered yet. Now that you get out of bed, there is really no hope of healing for your leg. Do you think I care? I've put in so much effort to get back to him. Without him, what's the point of living?" Jiang Ziyi raised her voice. His bloodshot eyes carried a paranoid madness, and his whole body emitted a fierce aura. "Get out of here." Jiang Ji looked expressionlessly at the female security guard. She forcefully pulled her legs off the hanger. Her movements were very rude, as if it were not her own legs, struggling to get out of bed. Tear it apart. The wound that Jiang Ziyi had originally treated was torn open, and the pure white bandage immediately oozed with scattered blood. The female escort was both frightened and anxious, but there was no way to stop Jiang Ziyi, so she could only watch helplessly. Just as the female bodyguard was at a loss and about to collapse, the bodyguard suddenly knocked on the door and walked in. "Miss, Mr. Shen Chuan is here. Do you want him to come in?" Chapter 10, I Help You Everything. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator.